Okay, thank you, everybody. Enjoying a great conversation. So we will have time for questions for the panel, so hold your questions. But for the moment, we really appreciate the Congresswoman making time amid the crazy voting schedule that's happening today. So to introduce her, I want to welcome Rebecca Perkins Cuoca, a New Hampshire state senator and the newly elected leader of the New Hampshire Senate Democrats.
Well, good morning, everyone, and sorry to be right in the middle of your panel. It's such an honor to be here with you today, introducing a dear friend. As we have heard this morning, this is a moment of shift, a moment of some slight living in the unknown while we search for a more honest truth, a more grounded approach, a moment where Democrats are in slight suspension, a moment where it feels grounding to be together with all of you. And when I think of grounding us, of living as a Democrat that knows and is true to their values and yet is so human, I think of Representative Annie Kuster. In this moment where we seek our footing and return to truly connecting to our constituents, all of them, not just the ones who voted for us this time, I look to Annie Kuster's lead. Annie has always been a person first, full of laughter, humanity, a good story, and warmth. And she has always been tough, as these and other times have required. She has led the New Democrat coalition with strength and common sense and has done so much for our state in the 12 years she has served us. She does all of this with such grace and occupies a special political space where we know she'll fight and get things done for us and come home with a good story and a laugh. In an age of highly divided voters and politicians, this humanity and ability to find common ground in being people first is a leadership that I will not soon forget and will spend many days trying to follow. Everyone, our dear friend that will soon be greatly missed, Representative Annie Kuster.
So awkward and rude. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca, Senator Cuoca, as we know her at home. Delighted to be with all of you this morning here at the New Deal Conference, Leadership Conference. You inspire me in my work, and I want to share with you a little bit about what we are up to in this moment with the New Dem coalition in Congress. Your public service is a great example, and we need local and state and community leaders to step up and join us at this moment of hard work ahead. From your work to grow your state's affordable housing stock and your focus on supporting hardworking families and small businesses, the people of New Hampshire are better off with Senator Cuoca, and the people of your districts are better off with all of you. So good morning to all of you. I'm Annie Kuster from New Hampshire's 2nd District, and I chair the New Democrat Coalition in the House and the New Democrat Action Fund. I've represented New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District for the past 12 years. We're gathered together, as Rebecca has said, at a critical point following the 2024 elections. And I admire Debbie scheduling this event at this time. I imagine that you had hoped that we would all be together in a very different light. Certainly, I felt that way. But as we reflect as a party on Democrats' performance in November, one thing has become very clear. The majority of voters didn't believe that the top of the ticket was suited to tackle the issues they cared most about, from the economy to safety and security, and that included both the southern border and the issues around immigration, but also gun violence in our schools. As I went out on the trail in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, on Long Island, to work with our candidates in the swingiest districts, in the swingiest states, at the swingiest moment, we were hearing a much more mixed message from voters than our siloed parties have adapted to. We also heard a lot, frankly, about bodily autonomy, freedom. Freedom was a big theme, opportunity, and, of course, protecting our democracy. Americans have sent Democrats a message rejecting the status quo, and we need to listen, and we need to adapt. As we embark on a mission to reshape our party over the next few years, a good place to start is actually examining what went right for Democrats in this election, with many of you in this room, and certainly with the New Democrat coalition in Congress. We can start from learning from our successes in the House and down ballot. I'm pleased to be here to report to you that the New Democrat coalition will be over 100 members strong. In fact, we'll hit 108. And with Derek Tran, hopefully on the verge of winning in California, 109. And with Adam Gray and a few more votes, 110. Common sense, pragmatic leaders with deep, deep experience and deep, deep connection to their districts. In the 2024 election, our members and candidates overperformed the top of the ticket in crucial races across the country. I'll give you an example of an extraordinary leader, Kristen McDonald-Rivet in Michigan. She was running in one of the swingiest districts in the swingiest state. Critical to our success, she overperformed the ticket by 6 points. She overperformed our colleague, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who was elected to the U.S. Senate, thank goodness, and she overperformed Harris Walz by 6%. And that happened throughout. Virtually every frontline, our members that had the most challenging districts overperformed the top of the ticket in their district, and every New Dem endorsed candidate. Our candidates flipped at least 6, and counting Derek and Adam, it will be 8 seats from red to blue. We also won, I believe, 10 Trump majority seats. We are the only ideological caucus to flip seats. We welcomed yesterday and today inducting 23, hopefully 24, maybe 25 new Dems to the 119th Congress. And as I've mentioned, we protected 20 out of 22 frontline members. So truthfully, that is an extraordinary record in a very challenging time. And keeping in mind that incoming President Trump will not reach the 50% threshold, I think we can all take a pause on the great mandate narrative that has developed. Through these efforts, New Dems helped elect, as I've mentioned, at least 23, hopefully 24, 25, one of the largest and most diverse new member classes in the coalition's history. And as I've mentioned, we've grown the coalition overall membership from the 119th Congress in January to at least 108, perhaps 109, hopefully 110 members. So that when we hit the 215 mark for Democratic members, New Dems will be a majority of the Democratic caucus. That's an applause line. Now, how do we do it? As voters shifted to the right across the country, and by the way, there's more studying to be done. It wasn't all voters shifting to the right. It was a whole group of new people coming out to vote who are not voters, typical voters. That's why it wasn't caught with the polling. The polls asked, do you intend to vote? If they say, I don't know if I intend to vote, they stop talking, click, and we don't find out what they're thinking. So that's the big story, and we saw it in New Hampshire. We had same-day registration, and I had friends that were monitoring at the polls, and they were saying to me there were lines for the same-day registration. Usually that would be students, young people, people moving to town. This was people who had lived in these small rural towns for a long, long time, but not voted. And they were coming to vote, and they were on a mission. They had their IDs. They didn't know how to go about it, but they were on a mission to vote that day. And we have, perhaps we'll study the number, but thousands, maybe tens of thousands, and this repeated itself across the country. That's a whole nother story that we have to figure out. But what we did in New Dems, we won because we ran on common sense messages. We were laser focused on lowering costs, on, I've mentioned border security, but also personal security, the anxiety of families sending their children to school and the fear that they have that they won't come back, public safety, and access to reproductive health. And we steered clear of divisive culture war issues. And that's the discipline we're going to need going forward. That was the question that came up in our press conference this morning. How do we move forward on important policy while resisting the need to chase down every rabbit hole? We saw New Deal leaders across the country employ the same messaging strategies and win in key states as a result. And I should mention, for Debbie, we talked about this the other night, 12 New Deal leaders will now be serving in the United States Congress. So that's big news. Now, up and down the ticket, Democrats need to use this message in the coming years, proving once again that we are the party of hardworking people, the party of lower costs, and the party of economic growth, jobs, wages, and most importantly, opportunity. This was a freedom and opportunity election, from the top of the ticket all the way down to the state and local level. The New Dem strategy worked in red, blue, purple, urban, suburban, coastal, mountain, rural, districts from north to south, east to west, and especially in the middle of the country. And we have the membership to prove it. I mentioned New Dems will make up more than half of the caucus, including 12 New Deal leaders. Moving forward, New Dems and New Deal leaders will lead by example and will build on our brand from the ground up, ensuring that Democrats adopt this messaging at every level. While House Democrats will be in the minority, the very, very, very slim minority. As I said this morning in the press conference, if Donald Trump keeps poaching the House Republican caucus, I think we will welcome Speaker Hakeem Jeffries in January. In fact, Democrats have to work even harder than ever before to not only push back on this extreme agenda and extreme messaging from the new administration and the Republican caucus, but at the same time, reach across the aisle whenever possible to make progress for our constituents. I like to call New Dems the can-do caucus. And there are issues. In my own committee, Energy and Commerce, we have 45 bills, bipartisan, that have already passed our committee that Speaker Johnson refused to bring to the floor over the last 6 months because he didn't want Democrats to have any wins for the election. But these are bipartisan bills. If you look at the child tax credit, it's a bipartisan issue, and there are many, many more. With Republicans holding this razor-thin majority, New Dems are positioned to play a significant role in the legislative process. And if we look back at my tenure over the last 2 years, issues like the debt ceiling and the default, it was New Dems that saved the economy, frankly, the global economy, from the chaos that would have ensued. It was New Dems 3 times that provided the votes to keep the government open. So this Republican caucus could not function on a 5-vote majority. They definitely can't function on a 2 or 3-vote majority. So following leadership elections last night, our Can-Do caucus elected our chair-elect Congressman Brad Schneider of Illinois, and he and I have already started meeting this morning to lay the groundwork for a successful 2 years coming up. Brad possesses the experience, the vision, the coalition building skills necessary to be a strong voice for the center. And Chair Schneider will be joined by Vice Chairs Nikki Baczynski from Illinois, Salud Carbajal and Josh Harder from California, and Mark Veazey from Texas. And together they will work tirelessly on the most important issues expected to come up over the next 2 years. And I mentioned Kristen McDonald-Rivert. She will be the new member representative to the leadership of New Dems as well, which is great. From advancing annual legislation like appropriations and the NDAA to passing tax legislation, and I mentioned the child tax credit will be an important part of that, addressing infrastructure and energy, enhancing public safety, House Republicans over and over will have to come to the table to get the votes to pass anything in the 119th Congress. So with our strengths in numbers and decisive leadership, New Dems are ready to meet anyone at the negotiating table to get the job done for our constituency. As I prepare to leave Congress, I'm looking to a new generation of New Dems and New Deal leaders to help Democrats regain the trust and confidence of our voters, to win tough elections up and down the ballot, and to enact our shared vision for the future. And I hope to be working with Debbie and all of you to make that happen. Thank you so much. Wonderful to be with you. And now back to our previously scheduled panel. Great to see you. Thank you.